بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله الكريم. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another episode of Life's Adornments. We will be discussing child rearing, the benefits, the trials and tribulations, the struggles. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Al-mal wal-banun zinatul hayatid dunya. And He says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, that زُيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ حُبُّ شَهَوَاتِ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ وَالْبَنِينَ, that Allah has beautified for men a love of women and children. So we all are joy to have children. They bring joy in people's lives. They are sunshine in our lives. However, it is upon us to know, what does the Quran say? What does the Sunnah say? How do we do it in a way that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it is in accordance with the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. To help us with these matters, we have Sheikh Assim Al Hakeem here today with us, our honored guest, who is a teacher at Zad Academy and a teacher at KIU, and he has been an imam and teacher for over 30 years. Bismillah, mashallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Shaykh.
Jazakumullahu khayran for having me.
So, alhamdulillah, we would like to begin by discussing the sunnah of shaving a child's head.
Okay, bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wassalam ala rasulillahi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa man ihtada bihudah. Now, this is weird. Why would anyone shave the head of a newborn? This is not logical. A point of disclaimer. We are Muslims. We follow whatever our Creator tells us. So for someone who's agnostic, for an atheist, for a non-Muslim, you cannot logic some, not all, some of the instructions in Islam, because this is not how it works. You have to go to the root, which is, do you believe in the existence of one God, the creator of all, the first without a beginning, the last without an end? Do you believe in that? If it's disputable, we can talk our way through it, not anything else. If you believe, then we move on to step number 2. Do you believe that such knowledgeable God, such powerful, such wise, would create this perfection universe, this perfect universe, and leave it without any guidance? It's not logical. Even Apple, when they make a new iPhone, they put a manual to it, to how to use it. So he says, logical. No. He will definitely guide us. Yeah. So we talk about the Quran and how authentic it is, and it is false proof, and it is the perfect and the last revelation of Allah Azza wa Jal. Then we talk about the Prophet as a messenger. Once you believe, then you become a Muslim. We can talk afterwards and express your submission. As a citizen of my government, I cannot object to what my government says. If they tell me you have to stop when a traffic light is red, I don't have the ability to argue, say, why not when it's yellow? Why not when it's purple? Why choose red? No, you have to comply. Now this sets the stage for non-Muslims to understand where we're coming from. Instead of just, Simon says, no, everything has a logic to it. So now, when a child is born, there are a number of etiquettes. A lot of such etiquettes were proven medically, such as the issue of tahniq, which is taking a very small piece of date, which is sweet, and chewing it, and then taking the chewed bit and put it in the palate of the child, of the newborn mouth, so that it's the first thing the child tastes. This amount of glucose has a lot of medical benefits. Now, as Muslims, who cares whether medicine says that's good or not good? We're Muslims. We do whatever we are told to do without any questions asked. Having said that, 99.9% of all of Islam rituals are scientifically proven. Maybe there's 0.1, 0.5, 1% that medicine did not reach the level to prove that, As Muslims, it doesn't make any difference because we submit our will to the Creator because we have the firm conviction of His existence, of His wisdom, of His power, of His knowledge, and we submit to Him. Now, going back to your question, part of the etiquettes when a new child is born is what the Prophet taught us, alayhi salatu wassalam, that the hair, the head of the newborn should be shaved on the 7th day of his birth. A frequently asked question, how to determine the 7th day? Well, it's a rule of thumb. If the child was born on a Saturday, the 7th day would be a day earlier. So next Friday is the 7th day. If he was born on a Tuesday, then by default, it is
Monday.
Is a Monday. So people think that 7th day is Saturday, it's a Saturday.
Yeah.
No. So this is the 7th day. Shaving it has to be done discreetly, in a nice way, by someone who knows what he's doing, without the possibility of harming the child. So if you're afraid, if you're not that confident, if there's no one to do this, skipping it is not sinful. It's a recommended thing to do. It is highly recommended Islamically and also medically. What was the words that the Prophet used, alayhi salatu wasalam, to instruct us to do this? He says, shave his head, and he said, أَمِيطُوا عَنْهُ الْأَذَى. Remove the filth or the harmful thing from his head. Because when a newborn comes out, there are lots of things attached to his scalp, discharges and whatever from where he was. So in order to let the scalp breathe and the hair to grow freely and healthy, shaving it adds a lot of value to the baby born. In the past, before Islam, the idol worshippers, it was a tradition among the Arabs that they would soak a piece of cotton in blood, and then they would smear the scalp after shaving with this blood. Whether this is sacrifice for the gods, whether this is an Arab tradition, Islam came to abolish this. And the Prophet said, ﷺ, instead to put perfume, and other narrations, it's saffron on the shaved head. And I don't personally know what are the medical benefits of this. We need professionals to look into it and find out, and whether they come up with things that are positive or not. Regardless, the hadith is authentic, and doing it is just part of the sunnah.
Yeah. While speaking about traditions that came from pre-Islamic era that flowed into Islam, one of the practices was slaughtering. So how do we reconcile this practice that was in pre-Islam, where they would at times slaughter in the name of their gods and different things, to where we come in Islam, where we do slaughter, but it's for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only?
Of course, part of the etiquettes of receiving a newborn is to offer sacrifice. And slaughtering in Islam is a sacrifice that a person offers to Allah Azza wa Jal. We don't have altars. We don't have a special place to dedicate this in. Rather, it is a form of expressing your gratitude to Allah Azza wa Jal. قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي. So my prayer and my sacrifice is for Allah Azza wa Jal. And Allah Azza wa Jal stated that إِنَّا أَعْطَيْنَاكَ الْكَوْثَرَ فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ. We have given you the river Kawthar in paradise. So pray to your Lord and offer your sacrifice by an-nahr, which is a way of slaughtering, but for big animals like camels and cows. So sacrificing is a form of expressing your gratitude to Allah Azza wa Jal. When it comes to a newborn, the sunnah is to slaughter 2 sheep or 2 rams or 2 goats on behalf of a baby boy. And if you are blessed with a baby girl, then you slaughter 1 sheep or 1 ram or 1 a goat, regardless of the gender, whether male or female.
Yes.
It doesn't make any difference.
Okay. Now, with regards to, for many people who can't afford that, is there something that can be done in place of that in terms of giving sadaqah, feeding people, and things of this, or does this fall in line with the Aqiqah?
No, this is a ritual that has to be followed as given to us. So if you're unable to sacrifice, there's no substitute of fasting a given number of days or paying cash or feeding wheat or dates instead. Not only that, this is a highly recommended sunnah. So if you can't afford it, there's no obligation, none whatsoever, upon you. But the Prophet told us, alayhi salatu wasalam, that every child is pawned. Now, the word pawned, not like in a pawn shop,
Yeah.
or in others translated as mortgages, mortgage. So no, it means that your freedom, your livelihood is connected to this aqiqah. Once it is slaughtered, then you're set free. So this is why scholars said that those whose parents did not offer this aqiqah, they can offer it for themselves. So now, if my mom comes and says, listen, when you were young, we didn't have money, we didn't offer aqiqah, should I do it now as I'm a grown-up man? There's no problem. Ibn Sirin says there's no problem. The Imams of Islam, the scholar says, no problem of doing it. But is it an obligation? No, it's not an obligation. It's something of a recommendation.
Alhamdulillah, thank you for this explanation, Sheikh. Viewers, we're going to pause for a short break, but we'll be right back to continue this episode of Life's Adornments. Stay tuned until you come back. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to our second segment of Life's Adornments. In this portion of our segment, we will continue discussing the slaughter that is done for the child when they are born. The question that oftentimes comes up is, what should be done with the meat? Who should it be distributed to? Should we eat all of it ourselves? Should we give it to our neighbors? Should we give it to our families? Or should we have a gathering where people can come and enjoy the meat in this way?
See, there isn't anything prescribed. As far as udhiyah, and udhiyah, by the way, is a sacrifice that is slaughtered on the Eid of Adha. We have 2 days per year where Muslims celebrate Eid al-Fitr, which follows Ramadan, the month of fasting, and Eid al-Adha, which is commemorating the season of pilgrimage, of Hajj, which happens on the 12th month of the lunar or the Islamic calendar. So on the 10th day of that month, it is the Eid and the feast of Muslims worldwide, and especially for those performing Hajj. The sunnah is to sacrifice a ram, a sheep, a cow, a camel, whatever you want from these types. And the sunnah is, as scholars say, to divide into 3 portions. A portion that you give to the poor, a portion that you give as a gift to your loved ones, neighbors, relatives, and a portion, a third, that you eat from. When it comes to Aqiqah, some scholars say that we should divide them or it in the same fashion. Others say no. What is intended is to sacrifice and to make the blood gush and come out from this sacrifice. This is what we are supposed to do. Whatever you do with the meat, it's up to you. So you want to divide it into 3 thirds and do with it as you do with udhiyah, that's good. You want to make a meal the whole thing, and invite loved ones and relatives and friends, that's cool. You want to keep it all in the fridge and consume it over the period of a month or two, that's even permissible. But of course, whenever you give some for charity, it is always a best thing to do.
Okay, so I wanted to ask, like the thing that's mentioned there is doing two sheep or something like this. If a person was to say, I would like to have a camel or a cow in this particular number to swap out for this, or if I had triplets and I wanted to have a camel instead, with these like minute details, do they matter, or does it? Are you
well, actually, this is an issue of dispute again. And maybe to clarify this for the viewers, in Hajj, each pilgrim is supposed to slaughter one sheep if his Hajj is tamattu' or qiran. Those who did not go for pilgrimage, they are also instructed to slaughter one sheep on behalf of the whole household. You and your children and your parents who are living with you under your roof, you slaughter one sheep for everyone. But there is also another option where the Prophet called and told us that each badana, and badana refers to a camel or a cow, would be equivalent to 7 sheep. So if 7 people come and pay equal amount of money to slaughter one camel, this suffices for them as 7 people, while they can only slaughter a sheep each. So in Hajj, 7 sheep equals a camel or a cow. Some jurors said, this is interesting. So when I'm slaughtering a Aqiqah for my newborn, can I also share with others? Or if I have triplets, like you've said, and all of the 3 are boys, so I have to slaughter 6 sheep. Can I slaughter 1 cow or 1 camel and I have a portion extra for the sake of Allah? Scholars say that this is not permissible. You have to slaughter 2 sheep or 2 animals for a baby boy and 1 animal for a baby girl, regardless of the nature. So what would be best? To slaughter 2 camels, 2 cows, or 2 sheep? The answer would be to slaughter 2 sheep. But Sheikh, the meat coming from 2 camels or 2 cows is humongous, is a lot compared to 2 sheep. Yes, but the sunnah is to slaughter in Aqiqah sheep, so it's best to stick with that.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Once the slaughter is done, the meat is prepared, what do we do in the event itself? We call people to come and feed them. Should the Quran be read for the newborn? What are some sweets be given? What are some other practices that should be done at the event itself?
All of this is not part of the sunnah. Quran recitation, gathering people to make dua, all of this is not part of the sunnah of the feast, the Aqiqah itself. The sunnah is to shave the heads, the newborn's hair or head, and to collect the hair and to weigh it and give its weight in silver as charity. This process might be a little bit difficult now to take something like 2-3 grams of hair to a jeweler's shop and ask him to weigh it. And if you just pay like 50 riyals or $10 as charity, that would be much more than enough, alhamdulillah. This is part of the rituals. But what you do with the food itself, it's up to you. As I said, you can call your relatives and eat. You can distribute it. And if you distribute it, some scholars say that when you slaughter a sheep, you should not break the bones of it. And they claim that this is sort of believing in good omens. So I don't break the bone of the sheep so that Allah would not break the bones of the newborn when it's grown up. But this is baseless. Why is it recommended to give the whole arm or the whole thigh as a whole without chopping it or breaking it? They say because this is good for the poor. If you chop it, you'll give the poor a small amount. But if you give a poor person the whole part, which is 1 out of 4, a quarter of the slaughtered animal, that would be much in his favor.
Yeah, now you mentioned something, I want a clarification on. You said that is not a part of the sunnah for Quran and dua to be made. Does this mean that it shouldn't be done at all, or is it this not part of the sunnah but not against it as well?
Well, it's not part of the sunnah to recite the Quran or to have what they call khuwani in some of the subcontinent. The dua is an issue of dispute. Some of the Salaf used to collect on the feast righteous people so that they eat from it and they make dua for him. Or instead he makes dua and they say Ameen. And it is reported in some of the hadith, and this is not a problem, but it's not authentic from the sunnah of the Prophet himself. The doing of the Prophet himself is not part of that, and Allah knows best.
Okay, and closing the issue, the matter of the Aqiqah, are there any other things that should be done in terms of the ceremony itself?
Nothing that I can think of. If you can come of something, maybe.
Okay.
Well, not now. I don't remember anything missing.
Okay, and I believe the next step would be then the circumcision?
Okay, the circumcision is mandatory for baby boys.
Yes.
And it is highly recommended to be done on the 7th day, because the child at this age would not feel the pain, and it's easier to control. And alhamdulillah, this is the sunnah. If done later on or a little bit earlier, this is no problem. It must be done by professionals and not by amateurs or people who are not experienced, because this is a very sensitive and serious issue. It is mandatory upon men, males, boys to be circumcised. So even if a person accepts Islam later on, and he's a grown-up man, it is mandatory to perform circumcision. Is his Islam related to his circumcision or impacted? Meaning that if he doesn't circumcise, then he's not a Muslim? No. This is only sinful. If his fear is genuine and is really, afraid of it, we could say that, yeah, okay, try to cool down and find a way. But we don't say that it is related to him being a Muslim or not. It's just a sin that he has to overcome and try to purify himself, because it impacts also his purity after urinating. It reduces his sexual pleasure if not circumcised in a relationship to someone who is, among other benefits, but among all, or above all, is that this is part of our religion. Female circumcision is an issue of dispute. And this point, or this issue, is a focal point to the enemies of Islam. Now, they don't call it female circumcision. They call it female genital mutilation, FGM. And they highlight it to just express how they think. Islam humiliates women, subjugates women, tortures women, and this is totally bogus and baseless. Islam does not have female genital mutilation. Islam has female circumcision, and it's not obligatory. Now, you have to underline this, and they have to come side by side. It's not like male circumcision, which is mandatory and obligatory. Female circumcision is not mandatory at all. It is a sunnah. If you want to do it, you can do it, but with conditions. The one who does it has to be a medical professional who knows how to perform it and not to exaggerate, as this negatively impacts the sexuality of a female when she grows up and deprives her from enjoying it. So this is not mandatory at all. In Arabia, in so many places in Islamic countries, no one practices it. We don't practice it at all, because we don't have professionals to do it, and we don't have the need to do it. So why is it sunnah, Sheikh? This is sunnah. Maybe in some cultures it is required to reduce undesirable desires. Rather, in most countries, most regions, there's no need for it. So you cannot say that this is an Islamic aspect, that Islam subjugates women, that Islam tortures women. No, it's not. It's not mandatory, it's not obligatory, and once performed, it has to be performed by professional medical professionals, and not by any Tom, Dick, or Harry, because this is a serious thing. Nowadays, it's very difficult to find any. So if someone leaves it, there's no problem in that, inshallah.
Yeah, so just for clarification, Islam does not in any way, shape, or form support female genital mutilation.
Definitely.
And when circumcision is done, in terms of the girl, that there is done with condition as well.
Correct.
And it is not mandatory.
Correct.
Yeah, I think this is a very pertinent information, because many Islamic countries, Muslim countries, practice it and they make it mandatory, and they do exaggerate many times in female mutilation.
If I may correct and interrupt,
yes.
Not many Muslim countries.
Yeah.
It's only done in 1 or 2 African countries, and not part of Islam, part of the African culture.
Sure.
So it's not practiced in Indonesia, where you have 250 million Muslims. In Malaysia, in Arabia, in India and Pakistan, nobody does this. 1.7 billion don't do it. Maybe 50,000 or 100,000 person does it, and this is not at all significant to the total population of the Muslims.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you for the clarification.
Welcome.
Viewers, thank you for joining us. We'd like to thank our Sheikh and our guests for giving us this crucial information, talking on these topics, and enlightenment. Until next time, we thank you for viewing the show. Thank you for participating. Stay tuned for our next episode of Life's Adornments. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.